What's going on, guys? Nick here with Elevate Fitness. So today we're going to do a little interview style kind of questions. I'm going to be asking a good friend of mine and lead hand on a music project, Industrial Metal, in the Ottawa area. His name is Corin Benoit, and the project's called DVOLV. It's been featured before on my page. I've shared a couple tracks with you guys, and I also did a couple verses and guest spots on it. So if you want to just tell us a bit about yourself and what DVOLV is and how long you guys been around.
Yeah. Well, DVOLV really started as a solo project. I always grew up being involved in the arts some way or another. When I was a lot younger, I did a lot of visual arts, anywhere from drawing, sculpting, painting, mostly drawing and stuff like that. Throughout the years, I started wanting to look at what was next. I started messing around with music. I learned bit by bit, and we used to be in a band together when we were in our teens. We had something going on with a close friend, my brother, and that's really where the founding days were. We're really discovering who I was as a musician, and I just stuck to vocals back then, but slowly evolved and started touching other instruments afterward. Eventually one thing led to another. People grow up, everybody went their own way, and I still had that desire to keep pushing on and to keep. I wasn't finished with music in my life, And I just kept learning instruments. I took like a little year or two hiatus. I was in college and all this stuff. Still being very much inspired by all the new stuff that was coming out, all the new genres. I was still very far from being finished learning my full, learning about all the music that's out there, all the new genres that I hadn't even discovered yet. This is before a lot of music was available on the internet. And one thing led to another, and I started collaborating a little bit with yourself and a few other local musicians on some tracks. I started off as a little thing doing in my basement on weekends or on evenings after school, but it grew into something that became more and more of a passion project. I keep pushing toward.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, me and Corin basically grew up together, and he was always, like he was saying, he was more into the visual art, so he's always drawing and stuff, and ever since we were kids, he was just fucking retarded good. And then, like he said, when we were in high school and we were teenagers, we were in a band together, so we kind of evolved to music. So why don't you tell us when DVOLV kind of began and when you kind of got into that concept?
Yeah.
I know when we were in a band together, it's kind of a similar theme to the music. And now it's just, like you say, it's evolved into something more concrete, I guess, more focused.
Yeah, for sure. I was always obsessed, the lyrical content that I would develop whenever we were working in a band in the past. I was always very politically driven. I always found that music I always found there's two types of music out there. There's music that's meant for entertainment, and there's music that's meant for art. And there's not one that's better than the other. But I was always more driven toward the art form. I'm not just making music to be up on stage and dance around and make the people entertained on a Saturday evening.
You're not gonna put on a skirt for us.
No, I ain't doing none of that shit. But I was mostly always driven by music with a passion behind it, music with a message, something that you could listen in the background or just literally slap on some headphones, in a dark room and listen to as an experience. And that whole style kind of carried through afterward. It was only in beginning days whenever I was in a band, and when I started being able to work alone, strangely enough, it ended up being a more concentrated form of that.
I'm just gonna copy real quick. Some people that might listen to your music, I don't know if anybody here has heard some tracks from previous albums or on the new album. Some people might say it's kind of dark. So what would you say to that?
I've always been a person, I feel more than ever in the last couple albums, more than ever, the music is starting to become a real, how could I say, it's kind of like an insight on my psyche. It's kind of like a little diary in some sense. A lot of the subject matter may apply, it might be me looking outward onto the world, but there's a lot of inward thinking too. And like it or not, I mean, I have a day job. You know, I don't do this for a living, not yet. Maybe one day we'll see where that goes. But you know, a lot of us have to kind of mask who we really are on a daily basis to try to be overly pleasant in front of other people. And you know, I feel like everybody, you know, you need that yin to the yang. And a lot of what DVOLV has been for me has always been, I'm a person who's very passionate about everything that I do. And passion is, you know, love can be passion, but so can hate. And I get my ways to put out love into the world, and oftentimes the hate kind of, you know, nobody wants to see you put that out. And I'm not saying the music is all about hate. It really isn't. A lot of it is about love, but you know, there's a lot of frustration that comes out in that music, and there's a lot of stuff I think that I need to get off my chest, and that I feel sometimes, and I write it out. Other people are feeling these things too. And I think that's what's always worked for music, is that people can relate to it. It's they listen to some of the lyrics, or they hear something. It's kind of that release, you know. There's a reason people crank up the tunes like blaring loud in the car when when you leave work at the end of the day. They need to vent a little bit. So yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, that's where it all began. Started, like I said, I started that stuff in college. And it started as a little basement project. I just wanted to see where it would go. And I realized after the first album or two, like, I wasn't taking it super seriously then. I was honestly just discovering the style and developing my skills as an individual writer. But by the time the second/third album came out, you know, my level of investment went from...
Well, I've also seen your evolution as a musician from album to album, and also like just the money you spend on, you know, gear, and just getting slowly and more serious into this. And, yeah, I've definitely seen a huge improvement over the last couple albums. Like, obviously, when you started in 2011 versus your album you just released, you know, a couple months ago, 2016.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. So what would you describe your style as then, or your genre, if you were to put a label on it? Because I know it's not super easy all the time.
Well, yeah, that's what ends up happening, man, whenever you're on those fringe styles. Generally speaking, I've always revolved around the metal genre, that's for sure. So I would say whatever the subgenre is, the core of it is still revolving around metal, only because of the aggressive nature, the style of writing, the instruments are kind of organized in that fashion. But yeah, I've always been drawn a lot to the industrial genre, just because I always found that industrial music and electronic music has such a wide palette of sounds. That's really the main reason it's always drawn to me. And the beauty of industrial is that it can be as dark and as monotonous or as heavy as you want, but it can also be fun. Sometimes it doesn't have to take itself too seriously. And I like that, because as much as I just said earlier that I'm always about that music with a message and all this stuff, once in a while, it's fun to let loose and just write a track just for the fun of it.
Just a heavy track.
Yeah. Maybe there's a little bit of a message behind it, but you're not getting too caught up in that, and you just had a really good beat, and it's a Friday night, and you were in a fun mood, and you wrote it, and it just everything came together. So, yeah, I would definitely say, like, DVOLV's kind of touched on a few little subgenres. It's mostly always been a theme for every album. But the core of it would really be like industrial electronic metal.
Okay. So we talked a bit about your album you just released. So what was really like the theme for that one? You said every album kind of has a theme. So why don't we talk about the theme for its New World Disorder?
Yeah.
It's the title. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, it's on everything.
You name it, Google Play, Apple Music. It's on old school simple formats like Amazon MP3 or like Bandcamp, SoundCloud. Check it out. Just Google search DVOLV and you'll find it. There's no problem.
Yeah, we'll put a link to in the video for all those things.
Yeah.
Tell us the concept behind New World Disorder.
Yeah, New World Disorder. Well, you know,
it speaks for itself a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it comes from the term New World Order. It's a classic term used in American politics, referring to. Well, I mean, what a lot of people think is what some people think about it and sometimes obsess about, and other people just don't realize exists. It's just the fear of an overbearing government kind of controlling and being involved in everybody's personal lives.
Which is very interesting with the United States elections that just happened around the same time that you released the album.
Well, that's just it, man. It's like the stars aligned on this one, you know? Like, I started writing this album almost 2 years ago. And, you know, if I look back at all the events, all the things that happened in my personal life and all the things that were happening in politics or what was happening in just in the world, it all kind of lined up. I mean, we went through North America went through two major elections. We changed from one leadership to another in Canada. We went from a conservative party to a liberal party, and I mean, when I first started writing the album, there was a lot of bullshit happening in Canadian politics with when Stephen Harper was in power. And I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into the whole political scene. That's not what I'm here for. But there's a lot of stuff that was going on that I really didn't agree with, and I know a lot of people felt strongly against. And on top of that, you know, there's all kinds of potential political wars that the Americans, I mean, obviously we're influenced by the Americans quite a bit. There's all kinds of wars that were almost started and that you know, the people fought back against, and the Americans pulled back, and then the Americans went into election. We have someone like Donald Trump that got elected, and again, I'm not getting too involved on that. I mean, I think regardless of what the outcome was, the Americans were voting for one evil or another. Yeah, man. I mean, the New World Order really seemed like it was coming into place, or at least thematically, like people were really leaning toward that. And I think that really manifested itself in the subject matter of the album, in the artwork, in the style, in the name. That's really where the concept came from. It was really, like, just like I said, it served itself as a bit of a diary on what I was noticing in the world and in my personal life.
Well, I think it's like what you say. If anybody's kind of like read the lyrics or heard the lyrics, I don't know if you have the lyrics up. Written down.
Yeah, you can see the lyrics if you go to DVOLV.com. You'll see all the music listed there. All the lyrics are track by track.
Pretty much anybody that's kind of like in our age group or maybe a little older, a little younger, kind of, I think, can relate to the themes. Just kind of being tired with the bullshit of the world, in a sense, and kind of looking to move forward past our old habits as a society, basically. You can explain it a little better than me, but
yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always written, especially the last two albums I released, which are New World Disorder and Doom Tribe Ritual. They were both written along a timeline, and they're actually kind of meant to follow one behind another. New World Disorder, if you read the lyrics, there's actually a timeline there. It's a bit my personal experience and over the last couple of years. I mean, we all like to think we're really smart and shit whenever we're in our late teens, but you know, I just turned 26, and you know, I still feel like I got a whole shitload of stuff to learn in life. But I mean, regardless of that, you know, if you compare what you know about the world and how things work and how to interact with people at age 20 to 25, let's say, that you learn, you evolve quite a bit.
For sure.
And my experience in that, you know, that's when you start entering the workforce, when you get out of college and you start hitting the real world, whatever the real world really is. But
whatever your perception of it is.
Yeah, whatever your perception of the real world is. I mean, the beginning of the album talks a lot about, in a strange sense, you know, feeling alone while still being surrounded by people, being rejected for your thoughts, and why my struggle with always thinking against the grain and how that's kind of kicked me in the ass sometimes, even though I refuse to kind of assimilate with other people. That's really what the first couple songs are about. If you look, for example, Persona non grata, which is the third or fourth track, I'm trying to think right now.
You should probably know that, yeah.
Yeah, it's the fourth track on the album. That's really a Latin term for someone who's been basically excommunicated or pushed away from society because they don't agree with the way that person thinks. Which is it's an exaggeration on my real life, but I've seen it happen with some friends, family, workplace.
A little black sheep kind of feeling there.
Yeah, there's those moments where you tell yourself, okay, I better shut the fuck up because, you know, someone's going to get pissed off at what I'm saying. I'm sure you've experienced something similar.
Yeah, you should just say it anyways.
Yeah, you know, for sure. And, you know, and it's strange because a lot of this, you know, I've gotten better over the years at voicing my opinions and learning how to accept other people for their differences, but yeah, I mean, this album really goes along the timeline, and it's like the beginning kind of goes toward being somewhat oppressed or being held back for your thoughts or being held back for certain freedoms that you want to try to retain, versus that energy that's always trying to pull you back toward the easy solution, trying to pull you back toward assimilating and the easy life and a safe route. That's
usually
really
the difficult choice is the right choice to make. It's a fucking bitch, but you got to do it.
Yeah, so that's really what the beginning of the album is about. The middle of the album is kind of like it goes under the theme of those evil forces kind of winning you over and taking over and you losing control. And the end of the album kind of is that fight back. I think we've all been there before. I think we all were at a certain age aware that there's these forces trying to pull you toward the safe route, toward what you should be doing, not necessarily what you want to be doing. And again, this album is an extremist exaggeration of what my reality is. Obviously, we live in Canada, life is pretty good, but
Yes.
but the album serves as an exaggeration of that. And, you know, you look at the artwork and all that. But yeah, I think we've all been in that. I think we've all been in that position in our lives at one point, whatever your age was at the time. Where you knew something wasn't what you necessarily wanted to do, but something pulled you toward it. So almost like an evil force that just wants to suck you in, you know. And
do the right thing, follow the path.
And then you get stuck in there, and I mean, for some of us, anyways, after a couple years of that crap, you kind of snap out of it and you fight back, you know.
For some of us, yes.
Yeah, for some
of us, we kind of stay stuck in that cycle a little bit.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, that's really kind of like where the theme came from in that album.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in our age group, from the people I hang out with anyways, can kind of relate to this train of thought. So why don't you tell us, like, as an artist, musician, you know, visual artist, what inspires you? Where I can already kind of tell what inspires you, kind of real world inspiration, but why don't we dig into that a bit?
I mean, if we go from other artists and stuff like that, I get inspired by a lot of stuff. There's always been an element of almost like sci-fi, and a lot of my songs, people say, sound like they could be soundtracks to movies. That's completely unintentional. I think that kind of comes with the industrial style. A lot of people don't realize, but a lot of, especially if you're looking at action movies or fantasy movies or sci-fi, a lot of the music in the background, if you were to just pull it apart and listen to it alone, you'd go, holy crap, that's a really good industrial track. But it's always used as environmental sound. So there's definitely inspiration from I mean, I used to be a huge geek, still am in a sense. Not as bad as I used to be. I mean, I don't show up to Comic-Con dressed up as a fairy or anything like that, but
not anymore.
Not anymore. No, those are my dark days. Yeah. No, but I get inspired a lot by existing musicians. Anything from people that are right in the spotlight to more obscure artists. Like, I've always been inspired. The first bands as a young man where I really felt and it clicked in my head. I'm like, holy shit, I want to be doing this too. Was when I was listening to bands like Mushroom Head or Lamb of God. Those
No Meshuggah.
I'm
surprised.
Yeah, Meshuggah too, definitely.
Yeah. All right.
Those three bands really set me off. I used to be a big Limp Bizkit fan, still am. So like my styles really go all over the map. Anything from like Tool to Pucifer or you know, I mean, I could enumerate them all, but there's a shitload in many different genres. Not a whole lot of inspiration from the country or you know, community, but I am definitely inspired even by the hip hop community. You name it. Actually, a lot of inspiration from the pop world. Maybe not so much mainstream pop, but a lot of the German stuff has been really influential, especially in the last couple of years. So that when it comes to other artists, and strangely enough, when I come up with an album concept or I'm really writing, I have a hard time writing it without coming up with the visual side first. I usually like to design the album cover, and it puts me in the mindset. Okay, this is what I'm writing for. You know, I start off as a visual artist, so maybe that's that pattern repeating itself. But so I get inspired a lot by visual art that I see. I've always been inspired by graphic novels and comic books and stuff like that, like Mike Mignola or you know. I grew up reading a lot of Spawn comics, so I get inspired by their art that way. Otherwise, I'd say the other 50% of what I get inspired by are the people I'm around, the situations I face on a daily or yearly basis. And the political world, really. That's really what drives me. So
awesome. So I think we kind of went over your inspiration, your theme for the album stuff, but one thing we haven't talked about is DVOLV. Why that? Why the name? Where does it come from?
Yeah, that took me a while. I mean, I'm that really OCD really.
I'd say more of that perfectionist,
yeah. When it comes, like, I'll spend when the project first started, I worked on the music for almost a year before I came up with the name. You know, there's some things of it that are not so inspirational, like the basics of marketing. Really, I wanted to come up with a name that wasn't being used, come up with something that was weird, something that kind of made people maybe struggle to read it in a sense, because you know, it could have easily been written with an E after the D and at the end, but because it's that missing, people kind of look at it for a second, and it's that kind of interaction, that hook that I wanted to create. And But at the same time, I mean, conceptually, I chose that because a lot of the themes that I was exploring, especially at the time, still to this day, in the music, is that, you know, humans are not as evolved as we'd like to think. We're still apes. We're just apes with smartphones, you know.
Driving in metal boxes.
Yeah. And in a strange sense, you know, I think with the internet and all that, people are being more honest with each other than ever. And there's a kind of like a reverse evolution. I wouldn't say a reverse evolution. We're not going back, but we're going back to our nature. I feel people are being a lot more authentic these days with themselves, and you know, more than ever, we see each person now with the internet and YouTube and you name it, just live news media. We're able to see a world of information, and we see how quickly human civilization can break down or de-evolve under a lot of stress, and that's a lot of what was inspiring me at first. All the stuff I would see basically on, you know, CNN and Fox and all the American bullshit news media. So yeah, I mean, that's really where the concept came from, was a reverse evolution or a return to nature. And you see some of that with, you know, previous albums like Doom Tribe Ritual. It's very primitive and aggressive, and you know, you kind of see it in the artwork. And that theme didn't really manifest itself until the second and third album, Doom Tribe Ritual and Into Cimerius.
So this album here is number 4?
Yeah, this album is number 4.
Cool. So 2011, 2016, you said you've been working on this one for 2 years now?
Yeah.
So we're coming in 2017. What's in the works?
Well,
started working on anything yet?
Well, this album, I mean, what ended up happening after Doom Tribe Ritual, I released that in late 2013. Immediately after that, I collaborated with a really talented writer and guitarist called Christopher Couture. We formed a project called Sum that was basically intended to be a one-off project. So that took 1.5 years. We worked on an album, and I learned a lot working there because I went back to a bit more of a traditional rock metal arrangement, like very progressive sounding, which definitely kind of inspired me later on to change a little bit of how I was writing. So that put me on like 1.5 years stall right there with DVOLV. I put all my energy toward that. And toward the end of that project, near the launch, I started dabbling around with a bit of music. And as a strange counteraction to the very organic and traditional instrument arrangement of Sum, you know, I was so saturated with that sound that I was seeking something more electronic, more experimental. So I started writing New World Disorder as a very electronic album. And, you know, 6 to 9 months in, I just completely changed the album around. I ran into all kinds of speed bumps with this album. At one point, half the music got deleted. Fucking computers.
Technology.
Yeah, so it can be your friend like it can be your enemy. So that album took long to write for many reasons, because it was the most intricate. It was the longest album I've ever written. It took it took a U-turn 6 months in. A couple months after that, you know, huge speed bump by having to rewrite some of the songs. Luckily, I remembered them all, and they came out better, but still slowed things down. And yeah, you know, I've launched stuff here, and I've got a few ideas of what I'm going to work on in the future. Recently, over the last 6 to 9 months, I've been actually working with a local artist, another musician who's very similar to myself. The project name that he goes under is Witch Doctor, and he works a lot on industrial, tribal, like environmental music. He kind of migrated that style. He's got a very similar history as compared to mine. He came from metal bands, stuff like that, learned one instrument. He's not a vocalist, but he's definitely a good guitarist and all this stuff. So, so yeah, we're collaborating, and we're looking to release. We have a new project on the way, yet to be officially announced what the name will go under. But we're writing some stuff right now, and really excited to see what's going to come out of it in 2017. Our goal is to finally hit the stage. DVOLV has always been a studio project.
Yeah, it's hard to do all that by yourself.
Yeah, where I write all the instruments.
Can't be on stage by yourself.
Hey, if I could clone myself tomorrow, it would be a weird presentation, but it would be doable.
Interesting, I'll be there.
Yeah. You see like 5 or 6 horns up on stage. That's 5 or 6 too many, man. Yeah. But yeah, really excited to see how that's going to turn out. And we're looking to hit the stages in the new year. We're going to come out with a bit of material. and we're gonna release a few less songs, maybe an EP's worth, but have it be really, really punchy songs, something that's really gonna be hooked in, and
kind of similar style, or
yeah. Well, we're gonna kind of meet halfway. I think we're gonna see a bit of a merging of what we saw in Doom Tribe Ritual, what we saw in New World Disorder, with a lot of Witch Doctor style. You know, I'm going to be taking the lead on the vocals for sure, and the lyrical writing, and a lot of like that hook style and that chorus style is going to be coming from me, but a lot of that background environment is going to be coming from him. We're going for something kind of clean sounding, but other than that, I mean, I don't want to hype it up too much, so I'm going to leave it as a mystery.
Just
for now.
wait and see.
Just wait and see, man. It's all brewing right now.
Awesome, man. Well, I think we covered pretty much everything as far as who you are and what your themes are behind your albums, kind of the concepts that you're working with. So for those of you that didn't hear it before, why don't you just tell us again where people can check out the most recent album?
Yeah.
And then we'll sign off.
Best place you can check it out, just go straight to DVOLV.com. That leads you to the Bandcamp page. That's my oldest platform. It's my baby, but I mean, if you prefer looking on Spotify, Google Play, Amazon MP3, iTunes, Deezer, Last.fm, you find it. It's on there. Reverb Nation, SoundCloud.
So everywhere, yeah.
Basically everywhere.
Just
open up your browser, write DVOLV, you're gonna find my ass, and yeah, enjoy.
All right, cool, man. Thanks for the time.
No problem.
And check out his fucking album. See you guys later.
Later.